Hey everybody, welcome to Hashing It Out. I'm Jordan. I'm a senior software engineer here at the Nervos Foundation, and joining me again today is Matt Quinn, the executive director of the Nervos Foundation. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm great. It's been quite a few months.
Yeah, it's been a while since our last update, so I know you've been
Yeah.
traveling a whole lot. How are you feeling today? You still jet lagged?
No, I've gotten through the worst of it. Yeah.
All right, good to hear. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Nervos ecosystem news and updates. We got quite a few of them, so we're going to get started on that. But before I do, the same three things I mentioned at the beginning of every show. Number one, we're not going to be talking about the price today. If you want to talk about the price, join Nervos Nation. That community is full of people who will love to talk about the price with you, but we're not going to talk about it today. And we're also going to be broadcasting live on YouTube and Twitter right now. But if you want to participate in the chat room and ask questions, you have to be on YouTube because our software doesn't support Twitter. And if you want to voice your questions, we'll try to make some effort to save a little bit of time at the end, but we can't guarantee that. And of course, we are live today, so definitely your questions are appreciated. So anyway, final thing is, nothing on the opinions that are mentioned today are of the Nervos Foundation. They're of the individuals themselves. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we want to talk about is events, things that the Nervos Foundation has been doing, and there's quite a few of them. Matt, you want to get us started on that?
Yeah. Like I said, it's been it's been a whirlwind this year. So going back to the end of last year, we had the CKB halving on November 19th. I see someone in the chat asking if supply will reduce. The emission schedule of CKB is set in stone. It's in the RFCs. You can check it. This halving was a halving of the mining rewards, or at least a component of them, similar to Bitcoin, and that took place on November 19th, 2023. And we'll talk more about mining and hash rate later, but it's been all positive. We also had a RISC-V focused event. I believe it was with RISC-0 and the Polkadot team, everyone working on RISC-V virtual machines. That was also at the end of November. You can find the recording on YouTube. And going into this year, we hosted Bitcoin Singapore in March. I think the first talks out of that are starting to make their way out. It's been amazing to see kind of this change of the tides for CKB aligning with the Bitcoin community and seeing how much, from our side, we have to, to speak about innovation relating to Bitcoin and things that CKB improves upon. I spoke at the World Digital Mining Summit in March, which was Bitmain's regional event, and talked about Bitcoin and layer 2s. Unfortunately, because of an AV hiccup, we don't have the recording there, but there's plenty of information out there about CKB and all of the L2 stuff that's going on. Additionally, the Hong Kong Web3 Festival, that was April 9th, 2024. There was a huge presence from the project there. Nervape had a booth, Cell Studio had a booth, the CKB Eco Fund had a booth, and I believe Jan and Cypher did talks. And Token 2049 is going on in Dubai now. It's still happening in spite of the rain. There's a POW night tonight. I guess that's probably going on just about now, inviting Bitcoin and CKB miners together for a happy hour. And there's a number of speaking slots from the project in Token 2049. I think it's about 4. I think Jan's doing a number of talks in Cypher as well. Cryptape is hosting a Bitcoin workshop in Malaysia. I think that's in the next few days. And I'll be speaking at the Bitcoin Energy Summit next week, which is a Bitcoin-focused mining conference.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of stuff. So the party you mentioned, the Nervos party, I believe that is going on right now. It's currently going on. At least we hope it is, because the flooding pictures coming out of Dubai were pretty darn bad. I know a lot of flights were canceled. There was a couple people that I knew that were going to try to make that party, but unfortunately they couldn't even get to the airport. Their flights all got canceled. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they'll have good attendance though. Have you seen the photos, Matt?
I have, yeah. It's historic flooding. 12 hours in 12 hours, a year's worth of rain, which is something else in the desert. But I have heard that the show will go on. The meetup is still happening, so hopefully everyone made it out.
Yeah, all right, so let's keep going here. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the CKB 2023 hard fork. So I'll cover this one. So there's a lot of work being done still on this. I know this is one that has been going on for quite some time now, but we still see a lot of active work going on it. There's a huge amount of changes that are going into the CKB node itself and the light client itself. Also, lots of work being done on Lumos and the other SDKs in preparation for this, because it's one of those efforts that you can't just do one component at a time. They all have to go together and they all have to work with each other. So it does take a lot of coordination and a lot of effort. Some of the changes that we've seen, though, is 67% faster block syncing time, which is a huge improvement. A new indexer for developers, which is significantly faster and also supports much more complex queries, much better of a system. Improvements to the replaced by fee system, and also some stack usage improvements in CKB VM. These are just enhancements that really help developers and give even more performance to one of the best performing VMs in the industry right now. And then one last thing I want to mention is the spawn. The spawn, what do we call it? The spawn call, which helps to do execution of libraries within a CKB script, which is something that's very much desired for developers. That's coming out with this too, and this is also going to enable CKB auth to finally make it to mainnet, which is a big help towards interoperability. This is one of the libraries that's been put together by the core team to make sure that it's fully secure and everything, and it makes it a lot easier on the developers when they want to do cross-chain things, because the core pieces of it, the core pieces of the cryptographic algorithms, which is something you really takes a lot of effort and you have to be very sure, because it's the bottom layer of security. They're making sure that that's all taken care of and it's abstracted away much more easier for developers. Okay, so the next thing we should talk about is the BTCKB initiative, which has been on fire recently. Matt, you want to get us started on that?
Yeah, like I said, this alignment with Bitcoin that we're, I guess, uncovering with CKB, it's always been there, I think, but we've lived in kind of an Ethereum-dominated world, so it didn't really get a chance to show through. But with the rise of inscriptions and BitVM, we're finding that there's a huge amount of interest in people developing on Bitcoin. And out of this BTCKB initiative, which is I guess spearheaded by the CKB Eco Fund, the ecosystem fund of the Nervos project. We have Cell Studio, which was launched at the end of January, which Cypher is the founder of. And Cell Studio is maybe a venture production studio, maybe is the right way to say it. I think they're producing software, SDKs, products, things that basically can help developers to build on CKB. And the first one out of that is RGB++, which builds on the concepts of RGB to build RGB as an off-chain data standards for writing, I guess, for creating systems on top of Bitcoin. And RGB++ is a protocol that allows for L1 asset issuance on Bitcoin, and then the seamless transfer of those assets to CKB. So when you have RGB++ assets on CKB, they're actually controlled by transactions on Bitcoin, and you can move them over to CKB. You can purely live in the CKB world and then jump back to Bitcoin if you wanted to. That's part of the magic of this protocol. And you can also move assets that were issued on CKB to Bitcoin. So if there are high value assets that you want secured by Bitcoin, I think a lot of this is kind of name and brand recognition, but eventually we'll see people with Bitcoin wallets and Bitcoin the asset, will find it quite easy to interact with CKB because of that flexibility of wallets, like you talked about with CKB Auth. Users can directly use their Bitcoin wallets to interact with CKB, which is a huge differentiator in the industry. I don't think there's another chain. I think Near is starting now with their chain abstraction, but CKB kind of stands in a class on its own in that respect. We also saw the unveiling of the UTXO stack, which is a platform for launching high-performance Bitcoin Layer 2 chains secured by CKB. So an analogy to this is like the OP or Optimism stack in Ethereum, where you have lots of Layer 2 systems that are being launched, and they all kind of work together and use the same standards. And this is the idea with the UTXO stack, is to have unlimited scalability without compromising on network security, because it's all being secured by CKB, but it's scaling Bitcoin. And we haven't seen exactly how it's supposed to work. I think the general idea is something like merge mining in the Bitcoin world. And the Cell Studio team announced that the UTXO stack completed fundraising on April 3rd, 2024. And I have the list of VCs here: ABCDE, SNZ Capital, the CKB Eco Fund, OKX Ventures, Waterdrip Capital, Matrixport, Y2Z Ventures, DRK Lab, and UTXO Management. So it's good to see a number of different VCs participating in that. I think we'll definitely need the support to grow out the ecosystem. Something like this kind of endeavor to launch layer 2 chains, it's a massive undertaking, but there's a lot of opportunity there. And lastly, on this BTCKB front is CKB Lightning. So this is an initiative out of the core devs to connect CKB with Bitcoin's Lightning Network. And the idea here is to have a bidirectional, censorship-resistant, and permissionless way of moving assets across these two chains. And from our end, we've worked with payment channels for a while. There's been a grant project from the Polycrypt team for close to 2 years now. And this is a separate effort that there is some confidence that can connect together. So we'll have a payment channel network that connects CKB to Lightning, and also a CKB native payment channel network that can interoperate together. So the advantage of building something CKB native is that you're not limited by by Bitcoin and all of the programmatic limitations. But there's a ton of liquidity in Lightning and in Bitcoin. And it's really exciting to see the idea of all this working together. It will take some time. There's been rumors that an MVP of CKB Lightning could come out in the next couple months, but there's been nothing telegraphed from the core team in terms of tight timeline.
All right, yeah, there's a lot of information to unpack in that. I mean, really, the big step that's live right now is RGB++. That's the really big component of it. That's such a fundamentally different core technology for layer 2s just in general. Like when we say layer 2, it means so many different things to different projects, and there's not necessarily an agreement on what it is, but RGB++ is really a system that's gluing so many different things together. It's going to be like Matt was mentioning, the payment channel network on Nervos, possibly the Perun payment channel network. It's going to connect to Lightning. It's connecting to RGB. It's putting all these things together in a very, very cohesive, seamless way that you don't see on other chains, because they're still relying. If you look at how a lot of these layer 2s are operating, they're going the bridge route, right? That's traditional bridge route, which is a centralized point of failure for security. And unfortunately, we saw a couple of years back with the wormhole hack, one of the largest hacks in history. A lot of people lost a lot of money, really hurt the ecosystem where that was present. And our team took a step back and said, wait a minute, this is a problem. This keeps happening in our industry. We can do better. And so now we see the result of that. Here is one of the solutions that's come out that is really showing that we have an advantage here in our system that's very difficult for other chains. Some other chains, it's basically impossible to do this at this time. RGB++ is truly an innovation that we need to pay attention to. And I know this is probably a lot of technobabble to a lot of you, because it is a complex subject. It took me and Matt quite a while to really grasp what this was too. But over time, we're going to be continuing to explain this, and you'll start to see the actual products come out, and you'll understand more and more what this actually means. And to me, what it means is that we have tighter integration with Bitcoin than any other chain out there right now. So it's going to give a better experience for the developers, and it's going to give a better experience for the users of the chain. And that's really what matters.
Yeah, I mean, when all this BTCKB stuff started, some of the early kind of ideas that were being thrown around, I was very against a lot of it, because the concept of multi-sig bridges were talked about as this way of kind of bootstrapping things. And I mean, we already know how that goes. And I think anyone who's asked about the status of the Cardano bridge knows that there's been kind of this, pivot away on the project from doing these bridges because of the inherent insecurity and bespoke engineering that's required to do all this. And fortunately with RGB++, there's been this, huge increase in the interest of issuing assets on Bitcoin. So the BRC20s or the ordinals and inscriptions. And because of CKB's flexibility, there's a way to do this, and for it to be a step beyond what we've seen before. And this is just the first step. I think we're really waiting to see where the ideas of Bitcoin layer 2s go. And I think when I look at the other ones that are being built, there is a lot of EVM stuff and rollups, but overall, any sort of kind of foundational technology that they want to implement, say if they want to implement Lightning support or whatever else the Bitcoin ecosystem comes up with, it probably is going to be some massive hard fork or rewriting of their implementations from low level, whereas CKB can just adopt these things and continue to evolve. And yeah, it's exciting to see what's been happening.
Yeah. One more comment I want to tag on there is that when this initiative came out, there was initially some resistance, and I'll admit I was part of that resistance a little bit too, because I didn't understand that there was this growing momentum really coming out of the East that about Bitcoin and expanding its capabilities. We don't see that as much in the West, but it doesn't mean it's not there. And so we've seen a tremendous amount of movement and support in the East, and we're starting to see it now growing in the West. I mean, this is definitely something that I think is going to continue for the immediate future and hopefully far into the future, because there is a tremendous opportunity here. And CKB is one of the few chains that can really take advantage of this. Okay, so let's continue to move on. Projects. I'm going to cover a couple of quick projects here. So Spore protocol went live on mainnet. That was on February 4th. We did an episode of hashing it out on that in the past, and they're going to be doing a AMA on Reddit Friday, April 26th. So that's upcoming. So definitely, if you still have questions about Spore, make sure that you check that out. So CoBuild and CoBuild OTX. These are new technologies that have been coming out. Have been worked on for, I believe, Matt, did you tell me it was the last 2 years that they've been working on this?
So the concept of open transactions dates back to just around the launch of the actual network. I remember a blog or a talk article from Cypher about a potential idea for doing open transactions, which is this concept of users collaborating to build a single transaction. So you could do something like an off-chain order book DEX, NFT trading, something like that. All without doing smart contract stuff or writing data to the chain. Yeah, I think CoBuild has been in, maybe that's been more like a year, but this idea of open transactions is a very old one that, yeah, I think hopefully we're starting to see exactly how it's supposed to work.
Right, yeah. So these are very new, very important developer concepts that have been being worked on for quite some time. They've gone through multiple iterations. And the past iterations and everything, they weren't quite where we needed them to be. And so there's nothing really else like this in the industry right now. There's nothing for that Nervos could go out and copy. They're really being a pioneer here. So it's taken a while. But finally, they've actually hit proof of concept on their newest effort, which is CoBuild and CoBuild OTX. So they're working with some developers with these early proof of concepts to continue to refine them, but it's showing a lot of process. This is just another one of these technologies that really unlocks a lot of the power. We keep talking about this often, right? But there's a lot you can do, and there's still even more that we can do. We know we can do. We just have to make sure that we keep making these small incremental steps to actually get there, and CoBuild is a big part of that. Okay, so the next one is, I got to mention, is CKB Auth, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. They've been adding a bunch more stuff to that as well. They added or enhanced support for a bunch of new algorithms. So SCP 256R1, I think they enhanced support for EOS and Dogecoin and added Toncoin in there. So they're continuing to work on that. Again, this is one of those that we're still waiting for that CKB 2023 hard fork to actually come out so they can fully roll that out into mainnet. But in the meantime, they're going to continue to put in changes to that. And then they also... Yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead.
This idea of different chains wallets being supported by CKB, I think, is probably one of the more confusing things for people. Like, people may think, okay, you're saying Dogecoin, you're saying EOS, so I can use my, say, EOS coins or my Dogecoin with CKB, which is not exactly there. I think maybe we'll see something in time, but the CKB Auth is about building a single library where you could build an application that could be accessible by users of all these different chains. So say like a Nervos DAO application that Dogecoin users could just log in with their Dogecoin wallets, and they could have someone send CKB to their Dogecoin address. They could deposit those CKB in the DAO, and and CKB Auth is this idea that you could have, say, who knows how many different chains all supported by that single application, which really is a paradigm shift in terms of crypto. Usually we think about you need a wallet, specific to the application that you're using, or you got a bridge. But yeah, this is really showing that power of CKB that you were talking about, Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, the model where you have all these dApps out there, and every single one is going to require a different wallet. That's kind of a failing model. It's not really a sustainable thing. There's simply just too many of them, and the user experience for that is not good. So users, when they have their wallet and they're already using it, they don't want to have to switch, and that's really one of the big keys here. And so, combined with some of the other technology and flexibility that we have with Nervos, such as the ability to pay with any different coin or token that's on the chain, you can combine these with some of the off-chain aspects that really give the user experience a big boost. Like we're seeing a little bit of this with RGB++, where the users are actually paying their fees. They're using their Bitcoin wallet and paying their fees in Bitcoin. But behind the scenes, there's an exchange going on, and it's actually producing CKB for the state rent on the CKB side. So these types of things, like they go on behind the scenes. They really automate a lot of these processes, and these things are not necessarily possible on other chains because they don't have some of the features that we have, like account abstraction, which is one of the really big ones that helps with these types of things. And last thing I want to mention is they have open source CKB JS VM, which is an interesting little library. It allows you to build scripts, smart contracts on CKB that are actually built in plain JavaScript. And so this is this was I think there was a proof of concept done way in the past. This is a much more ready version that can actually do this kind of things. I personally don't recommend anybody build in JavaScript anything, but that's my preference as a web developer. But you can't get away from it these days. And so if you wanted to give it a shot, it is out there. I still recommend Rust or Lua, but you can do it.
I saw something the other day on Twitter, and someone was talking about porting, I don't know, it was Minecraft or some popular game to Arbitrum. Like you start an Arbitrum chain that runs this game, and when I see something like this, I think about the UTXO stack. Maybe somebody is starting some layer 2 CKB VM, and it is JavaScript developer, and they're building all their front end in JavaScript. They want to write some basic contracts in JavaScript. We're a long way off from this kind of thing being practical, but the fact that it's possible on CKB, despite the very significant considerations that Jordan's drawing attention to, it's exciting possibilities that maybe someday amounts to something. But I think for now, it's just a cool thing somebody threw out there, and we'll see what becomes of it.
Yeah. And so this is again highlighting some of the versatility of CKB's CKB VM, which can actually run other virtual machines on top of it. So it is technically possible to run almost any language out there, and in some way, shape, or form can actually be utilized in our virtual machine. But I think I've already driven there. I don't like JavaScript, but you can do other languages, which is really, really one of the biggest powers out there that is not shared by many chains. So anyway, let's keep moving on. And before we do, I missed this comment here. A lot of liquidity in Dubai. Yes, quite a bit. That's a funny one. Let's see. Let's go into the wallets, because we haven't covered anything on that. Matt, can you take us through that?
Yeah, so JoyID really is leading the charge here. So it was launched on November 6th with, it seems like a while ago. JoyID has grown to daily active users of over 100,000. And I think a lot of this is driven by the RGB++ hype. There was a Spore DOB marketplace launched on JoyID March 15th. And also the Coins Dex was launched on April 16th. And this enables RGB++ in-wallet trading. It's a DEX. And it's amazing how JoyID has taken off. I mean, that's, what are we talking, 4-ish months, 5 months? And it seems like a night and day difference in the ecosystem. Anyone can onboard so quickly with JoyID.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to believe. I mean, it seems like longer for us because we saw JoyID kind of before it launched as well internally. So it seems like longer, but it actually has only been just a couple months here. And for them to explode like this, 100,000 daily active users, that's not total users, that's just daily. That is tremendous. That is a serious achievement. So they're gaining a lot of traction there. And just to remind everybody, anytime anybody upgrades their wallet, which gives them a cell which is used for the account recovery on multiple devices, that cell is created on CKB. So it is actively locking up funds and creating more demand for it. So we now have, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of users out there, possibly millions in the short future. Matt, do you know, have they hit 1 million users yet? Have they released that statistic?
I don't know how many total wallets there are. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, if you have 100,000 daily active users, it is inevitable that you have either already or very soon you have millions of users. Like it's pretty much a guaranteed trajectory in my mind. They're doing absolutely fantastic work right now. And definitely with the RGB++2, I know they support Bitcoin layer 1 as well. So there's only a lot of growth coming for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep moving on. So community, I'll cover some of these here. Omega, I'm sure you guys remember, Omega launched the meme token. That was a community fund DAO project that launched. Went absolutely bonkers in their launch. There was certain periods of time where there was over 25,000 transactions pending in the mempools. It took down the Explorer temporarily. And I believe on January 18th, at the end of January 18th, we saw a total of over 1 million transactions that had gone through successfully on the network in a 24-hour period, which is an all-time high. Definitely stress tested our network and showed that it went by without a hitch at all. Well, actually, there's one little hitch, though. There was one little hitch, was they discovered there was a problem with one of the mining pools, major mining pools, that was creating empty blocks. Which means that we actually had significantly more transaction capability than was actually being utilized at that point. So it can go significally higher. I run a node. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, please interject. Go ahead.
I think 1 million transactions. I guess for reference, that's about, I think, what Bitcoin does on an average day. And I think Ethereum kind of pushed to the limits. You'll get similar numbers here. And I think you were about to say, your node. And I think that idea that people with just regular laptops or Raspberry Pis are just, keeping these things synced. It really says something about CKB.
Yeah. I run a couple nodes, actually. I run virtualized nodes, and I run a Raspberry Pi node. And that's quite a remarkable thing when you think about it. Like that, we have something that's running smart contracts as powerful as Ethereum, but it's running on Raspberry Pis like Bitcoin can do. And it handled it with flying colors. There was absolutely no problems at all. There's a lot of people in our communities these times, thanks to Phil and his giveaway, that are running Raspberry Pi CKB nodes, and all of them went through with flying colors. So yeah, I mean, it's a very strange situation that we ended up with this gigantic wave of action over the meme token. But it was a good test, and the software passed with flying colors. So, kudos to the team. Let's also cover a little bit on NFT Nation, which that's a project out of Nervos Nation, for the new marketplace that's going to support. They're on layer 2 right now, but they want to support layer 1. And so they kind of went backwards in that regard. They started on layer 2, and now they're going backwards to layer 1. It's still on schedule. Things are still looking good. They're currently working on Joy ID, Spore, and Coda integrations. And I think Joy ID is actually functional now. So I believe Spore is being worked on at this moment. They're hoping to get something to look at, maybe not completely done, but something to look at near the end of May. And then they're going to actually shift focus over to Blitz TCG integration. Hopefully, again, that's the target, is the end of May. And because they're building a module, they're actually part of the partnership between NFT Nation and Blitz TCG. The game requires them to put together this module to do the card, to help with the card packs and actually facilitate the sales. So they're going to be working on that. So Blitz TCG, I've mentioned it before. Mick has been on hashing it out in the past. And they're doing their card sale very soon on Ergo, and I think Cardano shortly after. We will be added to that mix after that. It's not a holdup on his side. It's a holdup on our side because we didn't have the layer 1 support ready yet. So NFT Nation will be leading that, and they're on schedule at this point. Hopefully, we'll see something start to emerge in the next couple months. And I got to mention Nervos University. So Nervos University is an initiative led by our community member William to provide education on general blockchain and, of course, on Nervos itself. They recently launched, very recently, and they're now up to 400 members. So they're actually growing quite a bit. And they have a lot of ambitious plans. They've, I believe, made a couple partnerships that they're starting to work with. And they're going to be making an appearance in ETH Boston. So if you're in the area at the time, please look them up and give them a ring. And let's see, the last one we got to mention is QHub, which launched its mainnet alpha version on April 4th, 2024. So that's the new, it's an RGB++ DEX, and there's been a whole bunch of tokens launching on that recently. So they've been getting a lot of activity. It's really starting to take off. I mean, this is something that came out of nowhere. Like, I didn't even actually know this thing was being developed, and all of a sudden it just kind of showed up one day. So it's a pretty early DEX, but definitely, like, this is the first of its kind. It's the first RGB++ DEX out there. There's nothing else quite like it. So early days on that. We're looking forward to seeing more about that in the future. And then, Matt, do you want to take this last one? I think you know a little bit more about it than me. The Nervate bone list. I think you're muted there.
Thank you. Somebody's talking about price in the chat, which is against the rules. Please stop.
Okay.
The Nervape is an NFT project that's been around for quite a long time. The founder Echo actually did some of the earliest Nervos, I guess, swag or brand identity stuff. Yeah, so there's a long history between Nervape and the Nervos project as a whole, and they're launching what they're calling their signature NFT collection on Bitcoin pretty soon. I think the minting is maybe in the next week or so, and the bone list gets you access to mint at launch. So yeah, it's a project that's been in progress for a long time, and yeah, I haven't really kept up with the story behind Nervape, but I know that they've had many chapters over the years, and they continue to progress, and it's really encouraging to see kind of this NFT leading project in the ecosystem that's been at it for so long. And it's apes. I think apes have a special relationship in crypto, and yeah, that's about all I have to say.
Yeah, definitely. Whoa, I got some echo here. Oh, thank you. Okay. Wait, where is this echo?
I think you're okay.
Yeah.
I don't hear it coming through.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I got a bizarre echo in my headphones. Anyway, yeah, Nervape is one of the earliest NFT projects on CKB, and they've done very well for themselves. I actually just saw the pictures of their booth in, where was that? Was it Hong Kong, Matt?
Yeah, Hong Kong probably.
Yeah, their booth looked fantastic. They had a really great looking booth there. If you can find the pictures on Twitter, I'd recommend you look it up. This project is really starting to shine. Like, they're showing that they have the longevity here. So definitely, I'm looking forward to seeing more from them. And I believe that they're also going to have a partnership with Nervos Nation's NFT Nation store in the future. So look for that too. Okay, so let's move on to mining. So Matt, what's going on in the mining world?
Yeah, so I mentioned the halving toward the end of last year, and we didn't see any material reductions in hash rate as a result of the halving. I think maybe the hash rate was down 10-ish% at some point, but as of the start of this year, it's more than doubled, and we've seen that Bitmain has released a lot more K7s. I was on a live stream with the Bitmain marketing manager earlier today, and she was saying that the K7s are just selling out immediately, which is a huge change. I remember talking to mining distributors toward the end of last year, and they were saying like they just couldn't get rid of some of their inventory. It's the bear market for CKB, but yeah, from a mining perspective, it's a completely different world now. And yeah, I was hearing there are a lot of people who are mining in CKB that have no idea about what's going on in the ecosystem or kind of the power of CKB. So to see this kind of uptick in adoption of CKB miners when there still isn't really broad understanding of what CKB is or why people believe in it so much or why it's exciting. It's very bullish for the mining ecosystem of CKB, and we just saw today that Binance Pool has added support for CKB, and this should help to decentralize the mining pools a bit. Right now, the hash rate is pretty well tilted toward F2 pool, which some people will immediately seize on and say that that's a problem. So it's been exciting to see Binance throw their hat in the ring today.
All right, so let's see.
Yeah, I saw the question about moving Godwoken assets to L1. I would say that there's still kind of a question of what these NFT projects that have launched on Godwoken, how they make their way to L1. I know that the Nervos Nation NFT store is integrating L1 support, and I think that's a move in the right direction. Because Godwoken is in maintenance mode, it's gonna miss out on a lot of the exciting things that are happening on L1. So yeah, I think it'll continue to be a topic of conversation around what Godwoken NFT projects do to kind of migrate with this larger technology wave that's all going to the L1.
Yeah. I mean, the L2 stuff, I mean, it's particularly with NFTs and everything, a lot of that is dependent on the actual dApp developers themselves, on what they want to do and if they want to move them to L1. I mean, everything is completely permissionless and decentralized. So we don't have control over what they choose to do or choose not to do. So that's always handled on an individual level for the most part, and it's not always that straightforward of a process either. Like, we can't make really an umbrella solution for this because the standards on layer 2 are completely different from what they are on layer 1. So they're really fundamentally different, and it takes a little bit of effort from the developer to actually do that. And so if they don't make that effort, then you're just going to have to live on L2. But I mean, that's not really that big of a deal from the perspective of most users, because like NFT Nation, they're not dropping L2 support or anything like that. They're going to support both, and they want to do it in a seamless way. So all your NFTs just show up there right next to each other, like they were on the same layer.
Okay. I don't think I saw any other questions.
Yeah, there's a bunch of spam stuff I'm going through. Yeah. So all right, so here's a comment that I'll bring up here. Each transaction is in BCC but converted to CKB. That's great. Will that reduce circulating supply in the future? And do we plan to work with any other chains in the future?
Those RGB++ assets that are being minted on BTC and then issued on CKB are locking up CKB. In terms of other chains in the future, I'm not sure. I've heard Cypher mention at the beginning of kind of the RGB++ efforts that you could do this with any proof of work UTXO chain, but I haven't heard anything along those lines of what exactly they're thinking. Yeah, I think that the UTXO stack coming into this, I think that raises some questions too, because I think that is primarily intended to be Bitcoin. But yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
Okay. And then let's see, we had a mention here, April 23rd deadline for Nervape boneless claims. Yeah, I believe that's coming up. So make sure that you claim that if you're interested in getting. What does that get you, Matt? Do you happen to know?
It gets you a mint spot, so you can mint your Nervape when the project goes live.
All right, fantastic. All right, so anybody who's into Nervos, make sure that you know that date. And let's see. There are so many spam posts here that don't even have a message. I'm just scrolling through pages and pages of them. I'm rewriting CKBs up to layer 1. That's from Stuart. That is awesome to hear. We are looking forward to it. And also, you got to talk, if you haven't talked to Neon yet, you got to talk to him about partnering for the NFT Nation launch. There's going to be a bunch of promotions going on with that, and we want to make sure that you're involved with it too. Let's see. Here's a question here. Is there any more marketing rolling out? I mean, considering that the market capitalization is up so much, I'd say whatever is being done is actually working. But Matt, can you make a comment on that?
Yeah, I hope that Ash T caught the first part of the stream where we talked about the different events that the different I guess teams in the project have been present at. I think you'll see more of that over the course of this year. Yeah, I think awareness, really is driven from people using applications and getting excited about the potential of CKB and telling their friends. And I think that as we see more things come out of Cell Studio and this BTCKB initiative, I think that will be the strongest marketing. I think from foundation perspective and other teams like the CKB Eco Fund, I think that they'll continue to be a presence at different conferences and continuing to spread awareness about CKB on streams like this or with articles. But a lot of that is really, I think, maintenance compared to the big kind of awareness bumps that people want to see. And in my opinion, that all comes from people using the chain for things. And fortunately, this year we've seen a huge uptick in that.
Let's see. There isn't spam here. Do we all see this? So you see the administrator view? Come on, man. Okay. Let's see. CKB mining since 2021 till this day. Well, bravo, sir. That's quite a long time to be mining. It reduces from 2,500 per day to 200 now. Will this continue down as more miners come on board? Generally, the answer to that is yes. The hash rate continues to go up. So if you have old hardware, your hardware is not going faster over time. It's in comparison, you're getting a smaller piece of the pie. So, I mean, that combined with the halving that we had in November, that's probably the reasons for that. So really, it's time to consider looking at some new hardware. We are in a pretty good bull market right now. Oftentimes this is the time where if you have old hardware you want to get rid of, you might want to start looking into that and seeing if that's a good fit for you, because it's at the peak right now. And I think we're probably due for some new mining equipment. Anyway, I'm not going to say that that's financial or advice in terms of what to do with your mining equipment, but I did used to run a mining facility in the past. That's kind of what I would be looking at personally.
Yeah, the hardware will only get more efficient.
Yeah, that's true. It only gets more efficient over time. And what's the best mining channel, Matt, that you would recommend for somebody to get more info?
I think there's a CKB mining Telegram. So if you go to the main Nervos Telegram, someone can link you into the CKB mining Telegram. I think that's really the best place to go.
Okay. Let's see. Creating liquidity flow from CKB, BTC to CKB should be the main focus right now. Well, I think that is. I mean, that's what RGB++ does exactly. It's really creating an opportunity for the chains to operate in tandem, more or less, in a very unique way where liquidity does actually flow back and forth. I mean, that's what the Q-Hub DEX that just came out on layer 1 does. It's actually enabling that TVL to come from whatever source and be utilized by users. So any comments on that, Matt?
No.
No, okay. Fair enough. Let's see. Any new partnerships ahead?
Yeah, I would say for that kind of thing to look more toward the CKB Eco Fund and the BTCKB initiative. I think from the foundation or core dev perspective, they're not the kind of partnerships that people get excited about. So like, for example, the Polycrypt project to build payment channels, like that's been ongoing for a couple of years. And I hope to see more things like that. And I think there is some pursuit of this in the background, but overall for, kind of announcement kind of partnerships, we're going to do a town hall in the coming weeks, and there will be someone from the CKB Eco Fund there. And I think that will be the best place to learn about what things look like from a partnership perspective, because that's the team that's really, forging ahead. Whereas the foundation and core dev is kind of providing this, underlying, foundation for this all to prosper.
Okay, and let's see. I think that's it for the questions. Let's see. Anything else you'd like to mention, Matt? Any final thoughts or anything?
Oh man, just a reminder that all of this Bitcoin stuff is just one use case of CKB. I think there's been, I read some things about CKB being repitched as a Bitcoin layer two, and in some ways it really breaks my heart for all the years that we spent advocating for all the possibilities of CKB. So all of that is still the case, even if it's not the headline. And I think I'm still really excited about the crazy innovative potential of CKB and all of this recent influx that we've seen of people coming in and capital and interest. All of this just provides fuel for the fire. And yeah, CKB will surprise us. So yeah, I just keep waiting.
Yeah, well said. I think that things are really starting to heat up. We're actually starting to get some of the recognition out there in a very big way. It's exciting. We've waited a long time for this. Hopefully, the momentum will keep going. So with that, I think let's see. I'm going to do one more scan here just to make sure there's not any more questions. Wait a minute. Is this one?
Yeah, I see someone says if 100% of projects were to migrate from ETH to CKB, can it handle it in its current state? Yes, I think with some caveats. So there was an article recently that came out that actually analyzed the state of Ethereum and what data is being stored, and almost all of it is balances for ERC20 and ERC721 tokens. And like there are more. I think there's more data taken up by ERC20s on Ethereum than you could store on CKB for the next 20 years or something like that. So I think it's going to require better solutions. So something like Coda, which because of the economic model of CKB, it will force people to do this anyway. I think we'll continue to see there will be people cheering for the CKB price to go up. There'll be other people kind of moaning that now it costs them X amount of dollars to do anything on CKB, but the end result is going to be that the network remains sustainable, and we don't get into kind of these crises about what do we do about the exploding state, and do we need some sort of moonshot solution. CKB will continue to remain reasonable to run, even with all of the uptick in adoption recently. I think the amount of locked CKB has maybe only gone up 10%, which I know some people may, they want to see all of the CKB being used to store data, but I don't believe that it's absolutely required. I think there's a lot of different reasons that people would want CKB, and this idea of just storing data on the ledger is one use. And I think overall the economic model is not intended.
I think we just lost Matt.
I saw the
wait. You're okay. Wait, yes, you're back. We lost you for about 10, 15 seconds there.
Oh no. In the memes mint, we saw the state expand of CKB, and then we saw it go back down once people consolidated all their cells together. So yeah, the economic model is working. Can you do a cost comparison of running a standard smart contract on CKB versus ETH? These things aren't comparable, to be honest. Yeah, there's unfortunately.
This is a very complicated topic, but I can tell you one specific scenario. So anytime you compare two contracts, they're going to be written so fundamentally different between CKB and Ethereum that's what really makes it difficult, because you can accomplish different things in different ways. And so it doesn't make it really fair comparison. The one area that I do consider to be fair, though, is tokens. Just a basic fungible token like an ERC20, which would be comparable to our SUDT or now XUDT. You can create a new token on CKB for it's less than a penny, and then transfers less than a penny. The difference is going to be, of course, state rent. You have to pay state rent on CKB, but you get that refunded if you decide to get rid of it at a later point. And then on Ethereum, it's going to be costs that fluctuate extremely heavily. We're talking about a couple dollars to potentially tens or even hundreds of dollars during extremely congested periods for just basically token-related activities. So anyway, it's really an area that's very difficult to compare directly, but in pretty much every case, I would probably say that the CKB chain beats Ethereum on transaction fees. Specifically with tokens, it's kind of a no-brainer. There's not really a case that I see where the Ethereum costs are actually going to be less than CKB's. Okay, and let's see. There was shoot. Now I'm scrolling back up again. I keep losing track of these things. How's Dubai going? Warm reception. I would say, hopefully, I hope it's warm there. I believe that the rain has stopped. We actually talked about it very briefly up there. They had massive amount of flooding, and there's some people that wanted to attend the CKB party in Dubai right now that were actually unable to get into the country because of the flooding. But as far as I know, it is continuing, and they're hopefully having a good time over there.
CKB and Cardano, at one point there was a partnership brewing. So there's been no movement on this front. There was an effort to create a bridge a while back, but we also have the UTXO Alliance, which unfortunately there hasn't been any real collaboration with Cardano that's come out of that. But so you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah, there's definitely a chance.
Yeah, there's always a chance. Like, we're talking to different teams and stuff, especially that ones that are dealing in the Ergo community and Cardano communities as well. I mean, we're all friendly with each other. We all want to collaborate. It's really just an issue of priorities, and also of how well does it actually fit? How feasible is it at the time? Like, we've covered the Cardano bridge scenario many times, and like why it didn't manifest. It doesn't mean that it never will in some way, shape, or form. Like we've mentioned before in the past, Rosen Bridge, which is coming out of Ergo, that could very well be the Cardano bridge we end up using. Like, there's interest on their side in supporting Nervos, and of course from our side, we're interested in being a part of that. Again, it just comes down to priorities. I don't know where we fall on their list right now. They're still working on a lot of their infrastructure, still writing a lot of code and trying to get things up and running for themselves. So we'll see. But like, these things are going to happen over time. I mean, this is definitely something that we didn't just say, we're throwing this out the window, forget about it. There's never going to be a bridge. Of course there's going to be a bridge. I mean, we have an interoperability focus. Cardano has an interoperability focus. It's kind of an inevitable thing in my mind. All blockchains are probably going to have certain level of connectivity in the future, especially the ones that become L1 dominant. Let's see. I see this one here. Has there been any moves towards CKB becoming a Dogecoin L2 via RGB++? So
nothing I've heard. I would encourage you to fit Joj to ask that question on the up and coming town hall with someone from the from the CKB Eco Fund or Cell Studio. Yeah, they'd be best to advise. I can say that technically speaking, it's not too much of a jump from doing Bitcoin via RGB++, which is why I've advocated for it. But with anything with software, when you're deploying something new, there's going to be a lot of work there. But it doesn't require, some sort of crazy, leap of innovation or implementation. It's just actually, putting the work in that. And, if you look at all of the marketing that goes into the Bitcoin L2 stuff, to actually put that kind of effort into a Dogecoin L2 as well. And I think the stars just have to align for it.
Okay, and then I see a question. When are payment channels going to materialize?
Great question. So there's a implementation in Neuron now, but it's more of like a dev thing. I would say in the next couple months, maybe we'll see something on testnet for the Polycrypt project, and then CKB Lightning. There's rumors of, I guess, a similar timeline. So I would say July timeframe, maybe look at for something. I would say it's probably going to be a testnet. I think with payment channels, because you need to bootstrap liquidity. I think it's going to take a bit of time to ramp up unless we see some explosion of interest like we did with RGB++.
Okay. Is there a remote chance that Neuron Wallet can be used to store any other tokens, e.g. USDT?
So it can, as long as those assets are issued on CKB. So if USDT was issued as a L1 coin on CKB, you can already store it with Neuron. But the problem we have there is that USDT has not been issued on L1. So it's there and ready, but we need to see the stable coins on L1 first.
Right. Okay. And then there was one more. I've lost it now. That was about AI. Here we go. Should it be easier to rewrite and move projects using AI? The short answer to that is it's getting easier. I use AI tools pretty much daily now in development. Anytime I'm writing anything, I have various AI tools I work with. Now, a year ago, there were AI tools that I was using, and they were helpful, but they weren't essential. You could do just as good of work without them as you could with them. They were just beneficial. They did basically just line completion for you. Today, they save you a tremendous amount of time. It's made a big stride in the last 12 months. And so if you're a developer and you're not using AI, you are probably shooting yourself in the foot at this point, because it's going to take you a lot longer. There's a lot of things you can actually just tell it for simple things like, could you build me a function to do this? And you just tell the thing and it'll throw together a version for you. At this point, sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it gets it wrong, but oftentimes it gets you that starter that gets you a little bit closer. And you have to be very precise with it in checking it. You have to really look at it closely, because it does make mistakes. It oftentimes doesn't write things properly. So how does that apply to smart contracts specifically? Well, with smart contracts, you have to be super precise with everything. You really need to know what you're doing, because you're oftentimes dealing with other people's funds. And if you make a mistake, it can cause a really big problem. So AI is helping with it. It is helping, but you have to watch it like a hawk, and you have to check every line of code that it's writing. And you still really need to know what you're doing. If you just rely exclusively on AI and you don't check what it's doing, you're putting a huge amount of bugs out there without even realizing it. So, yeah. So the short answer is yes, it does help, but it's not really a big step in this point, especially for smart contracts, especially for lesser known, more proprietary technology like the CKB's cell model. It's very different. So because it's so different from most of the other stuff out there, AI also doesn't have the advantage of a lot of base that it can learn off of, right? AI has to be trained on something too. So it doesn't deal very well with the cell model. And this is going to be the same. It's probably not going to do very well with Cardano's EUTXO or anything like that. I would say it's probably going to have a little bit of an advantage and more helpfulness with Ethereum, just because they have a larger amount of smart contracts out there that can be used for training. But it's getting better every day. The AI is getting better at a pretty remarkable rate. Okay, let's see. Did anything else? Like I thought we didn't have any questions, and then all of a sudden you guys just dumped an entire pile on us.
There's a new version of Neuron Wallet came out. Can you continue with older version to hold and stake? Yes, you don't need to upgrade your Neuron Wallet. If there's a hard fork, which we talked about, the CKB 2023 hard fork, at some point you'll have to, but not in view at this point.
Okay, where's the community CKB? I think you're talking about the channels. Well, there's a bunch of them. The community main one is Nervos Nation. That's on Telegram, and there's also there's a couple new ones, also new Nervos University. That's pretty new. So you should just ask in there. They'll be able to direct you to all the other channels. And let's see, we got. Is there a CKB Dev Academy? We do have CKB Academy, which has some courses on there. That includes the cell courses. There's 2 different cell model courses, and then the developer training course, a full developer training course, which takes most developers about 2 weeks to go through, really learns the deep fundamentals. But like I mentioned a little bit earlier, is a lot of this stuff is being rewritten. So that's Rongshin and his team have put a huge amount of effort into the documentation. They put out some of the early stuff that's visible, and we see more of it internally. I've also had I've helped them out there as well too, is with the review, and actually we've been collaborating back and forth a little bit on that. They're making tremendous progress on this, and this is one of them. You've heard me talk about this in the past, right? And there have been other efforts in the past. Rongshin really has spearheaded this, and it's changing for the better in a very big way. So we really like what we're seeing, and we're going to start seeing a lot more of this, I think. They haven't even started to touch CKB Academy yet. They're still just working on the fundamentals, really going from the ground up and making sure that everything is where it should have been from the beginning. But unfortunately, you know how development goes, is there's never enough time for anything. And sometimes the core product comes first and the documentation gets left to the side while they're pushing as fast as they can on the core product. We had a lot of that rushing stuff going on for several years now. They're still trying to catch up, and Rongshin is making that happen. He's getting us caught up finally. Okay, let's see. Is there an incentive for taking the courses? The developer courses? No, not at this time. It's not to say that's impossible. It's of course a possibility. And then there's also going to be some courses and stuff coming out of Nervos University too. I don't have an actual answer for that. You'd have to ask them. But I can tell you that the idea has been floated. Right? There's partners and stuff that they're working with, and that I've been in part of those conversations. The idea of offering some incentives for those that go through an entire course and actually prove that they know what they're talking about, it's a possibility. So make sure you reach out to William, and that's in the new Nervos University Telegram channel. Okay, I think we are actually past time now, and we are out of questions. Perfect timing here. So you want to give us your final words one more time, Matt, right before we head out?
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Yeah, it's great to see all of the enthusiasm and interest in CKB, and yeah, we just continue to grow. There's a book called the Snowball from Warren Buffett, which is a great analogy for what we're seeing in this community. We've been at it for a long time. CKB has been live since 2019, which I think a lot of people coming in don't know that. But yeah, what you're seeing is just one more step in this journey. So yeah, hold on, let's keep going.
All right, guys, we're going to head out of here. Matt, thank you for your time today. And of course, thank you to everybody at home. The community is the beating heart of this entire project. So we really appreciate your efforts, and we appreciate you tuning out and being with us here today. All right, everybody, take care.
Thanks, Jordan.